Good afternoon, how are you? My name's Keegan, and I think a lesson that I have immediately learned upon this walk today is that when it's nearly 100 degrees, probably not going to do this when there's so much sun. So if I start sweating, my apologies. So what do I want to talk about today? I had an interesting discussion, and I kind of want to dig into it with all of you. So, let's start by saying, when it comes to the fight for America's soul, we have, got a hair in my mouth. We have three camps. I think three camps is generalizing, but when I say them, I feel like you might agree. So the first and most obvious camp is the fascist cult. Trump's little nut gobblers. And if you ask me, like Lieutenant Aldo Raine said, they must be destroyed. But they're not who I'm mostly talking about today. Today, I'm talking about the third camp. But first, let's go with the second camp. Second camp, people like me, principled people who are willing to stand on their principles and believe in things like justice, freedom, and democracy. You know? Loyal to the Constitution. And then we have the third camp. The cult of apathy. The cult of indifference. And there may be many reasons why these people are this way, but regardless, they have an impact too. And I've always had a very heavy-handed approach. For me, I've received a good deal of criticism for it, and maybe rightfully so. Some people are too aggressive, and maybe that's me. But my approach has always been, it varies from person to person, but it is always an aggressive nature, and it's always usually either ridiculing them for their stupidity, shaming them for having no moral fiber, or pure aggression and threatening them. Or even for the ones I am trying to pull away from it, warning them of what's to come for them, because they will be cannibalized by this movement. Just because they're a part of it doesn't mean they're safe. So, what about the people who are apathetic? Well, I, in many ways, have the same approach to them. I catastrophize and I let them know, hey, you're not safe from this. This is going to come and get you. And usually it seems that these people think that it's not as bad as it is because it isn't personally affecting them. And okay, for now, and if you don't wisen up, it'll be your progeny who has to deal with it. But hey, enjoy all these luxuries while you got them. Because if you're not going to fight for them, then there is a time limit on how long you're going to have them. But that may be the wrong approach. I've also, criticized them for moral lacking. Like people who still pay their federal taxes. You are financing tyranny. Stop it. And that doesn't seem to be enough. They seem to think that somebody's taking a high ground on them and they go into defense mode. But I had a discussion today about treating this cult of apathy as if they're addicted, as if they're addicts. And that was a very interesting thing that was said to me. I never really thought of it in that kind of a way. Like they're addicted to their comforts and their perceived safeties, and in some respects, that is a conditioning of the society that we've all grown up in. But it was interesting when it was put to me that way, because I'd never really thought of it like that. But say you treat everyone who's apathetic and self-absorbed as if they're addicts, I'm not sure how to approach that, because I'm someone who used to have several addictions. You could say I still do have several addictions. I've beaten all of them, but for me, it was never any particular substance. I was addicted to not being sober. You know, and it wasn't just alcohol. I could be at a party, and if somebody handed me a random pill, I'd take it. Didn't care what it was. Had a lot of fun from 16 to 21 years old. But I don't think my experience with dealing with personal addictions quite maps on, because I got out of my addictions because all of this started. All of MAGA began. We started falling to tyranny. I got out of most of what I am now is shaped by that fact. You know, when the orange fucker came down the escalator, I was 22 years old, 33 now. So essentially my entire adult life has been this. It has been dealing with this. And as someone who is very poor and feels it more and more as things get tougher and tougher, it is very difficult for me to escape these topics. It affects me every day significantly. But I got a little off topic. The cult of apathy, treating them as if they are addicts. For one, an addict's never going to get better unless they want to get better. They have to hit their rock bottom. The problem is, I've learned this more and more as I've aged. I had to be shocked out into these lessons because the world around me just suddenly went batshit. But in my experience, some people don't hit a rock bottom. There is no rock bottom for some people. You know? And then what? I don't necessarily think that this is the case in this kind of a circumstance. I think the result will be the rock bottom will come for everyone, all of us as a society. And my concern is that this cult of apathy, and when I say cult of apathy, I am meaning something separate from the MAGA cult. I'm talking about the people they don't seem to care at all, no matter how much worse it seems to get. But when this rock bottom comes for all of them, I fear that they will do as the Germans did. Whether they're Nazis or not, they just had to keep selling their eggs. They had to keep selling their bread. You know, they just had to keep taking care of theirs. They knew what was happening to their neighbors. They didn't care. Or even if they did care, they felt there was nothing they could do. And that's an interesting thought, because if it is the case that there is no rock bottom for a lot of these people, then what do? You know? A rock bottom only happens if someone who's experiencing rock bottom considers it their rock bottom. So someone could potentially never hit a rock bottom, and they just spiral and spiral and spiral. And the lesson I keep getting told, because it is a great deal of people in my personal life who fall into this category, is that you got to worry about yourself. You can't try and save them. In some respects, it seems to me, maybe it's not the case that I'm being told this, but I am interpreting it as being told you have to give up on them. And I have a big problem with that, you know? Like, you can't save someone who doesn't want to be saved. But when it's people you love, when it's your family members, it's very difficult to give up on someone. In some cases, it's not possible. Or at least, it doesn't feel possible. And I am subject to those feelings every day. And this isn't like a circumstance of, somebody's a literal drug addict. This is politics. So it feels normal to people to carry on with their lives, not realizing that they are actually the ones who are kind of insane. But I just kind of wanted to touch on this today because I thought it was an interesting way to look at it. And it may very well be the correct way to look at it. I am kind of, even still, as I talk about this, and we'll spend a good deal later on, I'm actually curious if there's literature that links the political movement and people who are apathetic to the mentality of addicts. I'm very interested if there's literature on that. And I would be very happy to read some of it because I want to keep reflecting on this idea because it's an interesting idea, again, and I'd never thought of it that way. But if it is the case that it is an addictive mindset and these people are truly just addicts to their comfort and their feelings of safety, I don't know really how to approach that, especially someone like me who's very aggressive and very heavy-handed. Some of these videos, you've already seen the passion that can rise up in me, but a lot of them, I somewhat maintain a degree of a civil tone. At least I feel like I do. That'd be up for all you to decide. But I try and stay civil. I try and talk. But if you met me in person, especially if you're one of them, not the cult of apathy, but the MAGA cult, there is no civility. I am not civil at all, no matter the circumstance, to these fascists. If I had my way, we would be dealing with them already. Because there is no trading and negotiating with people whose entire world philosophy is your destruction. But as far as the cult of apathy goes, I think I have a lot to think on and a lot of research to do to see if there is some sort of literature on the idea that they are addicts. So, interesting talk today. It's very hot. I hope you're all doing well and be safe.